Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, and Rumble. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, onto the show.
What's the name?
The Lourdes.
We have one of them already.
The Miracles.
Best of luck. First prize, tickets to Lourdes.
Why do you want to win a trip to Lourdes?
Our best friend, Maureen, always wanted to go.
She'd want us to.
No.
Miracles happen there.
Congratulations.
You can't go.
I'm going.
What'll I do on me own?
Go back to bed.
You're coming back, Ma.
Maybe. Maybe not. Holy Mary, Mother of God. I thought I can believe it.
Excuse me.
Who is it?
Maureen's daughter.
We all thought she was dead.
Hi. I wouldn't have recognized you.
40 years would do that, do you?
Is there only one bed?
Your ma wouldn't have fussed.
I am not my mother.
Ain't that the truth?
Oh, you remember me. I was sure you wouldn't.
Who forgets family?
Yeah, who does that?
Why did you leave? Never come back?
Leave. I was banished, Eileen. Our Lady. She's going to help us.
There's where she appeared. Right there. She told everyone to come and bathe.
I say it's bitter cold.
Oh no, it's a miracle.
We ready?
I'm not.
I don't need a cure.
Not everyone goes to Lourdes for a cure.
I'm out and I'm running out of chances.
Church is good at guilt.
It's also good at forgiveness.
Can you ever forgive me?
Oh, Lily.
I'm glad you came, Chrissy.
You don't come to Lourdes for a miracle. You come for the strength to go on when there is no miracle.
I loved you and you left. So I hated you. But I never hated you more than I loved you.
Even when you don't believe, there's always hope, isn't there?
Did your wife pass away on you?
She's in Lourdes.
There's a miracle for her. You, shopping.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 547. Releasing August 3rd in Australian cinemas is The Miracle Club, a 1967 set drama in which three generations of women from working-class Dublin undertake a pilgrimage to the holy city of Lourdes in search of a miracle. Starring Kathy Bates, Laura Linney, and Maggie Smith, The Miracle Club is a charming and heartfelt exploration of faith, friendship, and forgiveness that features wonderful performances from its talented cast. And joining me now is the director of The Miracle Club, Mr. Thaddeus O'Sullivan. Thaddeus, I thank you so very much for your time today.
Hi, Matthew. Glad to be here. Thank you.
So, The Miracle Club, this movie is something of a miracle in itself, isn't it? I mean, it took quite a long time from its inception back some like 18 years ago to make it to the screen. And you were attached to the project, I think, something like 15 years ago. Recently, a couple of years back, you finally get your cast together, everything is ready to go, and then COVID hits and another delay again. When that happens, I'm curious, when it comes to yourself and the producers and everyone else involved in the film, is there a feeling of, God is testing us in regards to our resolve in making of this movie? What is the initial reaction once COVID hits and this movie is delayed again with circumstances that are just totally out of your control?
Yeah, it did take a long time to get going. I was involved in the very early days, and then I had nothing to do with this until 2 or 3 years ago. And then I think the script came right, really, which is at the end of the day, no matter what the cast is, you can't make a film unless you feel the script is working. And I think the script, everybody felt that the script was getting there a couple of years ago. So at that point, Laura Linney got involved, and we had our cast, and then of course, COVID, the nightmare, got in the way, and it took us a while, a year or so, to mount it. But yeah, once we got going, it was quite a strange feeling to actually be on the set and for this thing to be actually happening, and with these three actors. It was I had to pinch myself, I guess, but once we got going, it felt as natural as anything. It was just, being on a set and talking to actors and talking to crew is what I do, and we just and that's what they do, and so it was it went very smoothly in those terms. What always I guess is the thing that's the most difficult to sort of deal with is getting through the day with three actors like that who should be rehearsing the material and should be discussing it at length, and you don't have time for that on a low budget film. But they knew that, and they were completely open to being pushed and shoved when it came to what we had to do and how much time we had to rehearse. They were just a joy to work with in that sense. So it was quite smooth from that point of view, but there was a lot of pressure. Maggie is quite old, and so she could only work 3 days a week. So that affected the schedule quite a lot. But we worked around it, and she worked long days. The days that she did work were very long days, and with lots of dialogue and stuff. And she never resistant in any way. I know it's a cliche, but the three of them were completely professional, and they're there to just act, and that's all they want to do. Just like the crew just want to work, the actors get on the set and they just want to act. They just want to do the work. So we moved quite quickly. Sorry, I wandered off into well away from your question.
No, not at all, not at all. I truly appreciate the answer. I'm curious. Let's say the film did get made 15 years ago. How would you have approached the material then as opposed to now? Do you need that time for the material to breathe, to rest? Do you need that time as a person to delve into the themes of the movie, which can be quite heavy themes? I mean, a movie can be lighthearted in parts, but there are heavy things in the movie. I mean, does the filmmaker 15 years ago approach a material different as opposed to Thaddeus O'Sullivan, who approached the film a couple of years ago?
It would definitely. I was very glad I didn't make it 15 years ago when I was first approached, because my idea at that time was to find a writer and introduce the elements that I thought would work in the story. And so I would have had to discuss that with HBO, and I don't know how that would have gone. We never got that far. But it would have been another journey. So, but it went on its own journey with other people, other producers, and so on for quite a long time. And so when I came back into it, I felt that these are some of the ideas now that I can begin to introduce to the story to make it work for me. They've come to me twice, so I am going to make this film the way I want to make it, because. If they didn't want me to make it, they could have asked somebody else. So we had that. The Laura Linney character was a very important character for me. Her story and her bringing she was a kind of touchstone in a way, because once she arrived, we had the past in human manifestation was there, and it was going to affect the other women straight away, and I wanted to see what would happen. So that's what it was all about for me. The other element is the Lourdes development. I was never in Lourdes, but my family had a very close association with it, and a lot of families in Ireland now and then have I'm always curious about the Lourdes effect and what it meant to people. And one of the writers, Tim Prager, had been to Lourdes many, many times for private reasons. And so that was fascinating to sit down and discuss with him what we used to call the Lourdes effect, which is to say when people go there, they go there with very particular notions. The extreme one would be to have a miracle, or to go there to see what it's all about, and all things in the middle, to go and have a spiritual experience, to go and pray for the intercession of Our Lady, and be among like-minded people, if I can call people who all are spiritually engaged like-minded. I mean, they're not, of course. But to be in that atmosphere, I think, is humbling for a lot of people, and I think it has a powerful spiritual effect on them. And I think people go for that. They go for it, or they go not knowing why they go, and they discover it. And so, once the characters are in Lourdes, I think they feel I said once they see Laura Linney character turning up, they know something's going to happen. But they also know that being in Lourdes is where things happen, to you. There's an expectation that something will happen. It doesn't have to be a miracle. But you already engage with that expectation once you get there. You've left the kids behind, you've left the husbands, you've left the whatever. And those sense of the duty is left behind. Unfortunately for the women, the past, lands on them like a ton of bricks. And but if it wasn't, if they weren't in Lourdes, they wouldn't have had that wonderful experience of engaging with each other and engaging with themselves.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. Well, I think that's something that I really took from the movie. I mean, the film essentially is about these women who are looking for a miracle, but the importance isn't in a miracle necessarily. The importance is in the pilgrimage, because the pilgrimage brings journey, it brings reflection, it brings communion. And I think that's a really essential thing that people need to realize. So a lot of the times the miracle is within the journey itself and the things that happen there. And I think there are moments in the film where people are disappointed that they didn't, get an apparition. They didn't hear God's voice. They didn't they weren't healed in the way that they thought they were going to be healed. But it's sometimes, like they say, the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I think those mysterious ways bring about even more depth, even more blessings than anything they could even imagine.
Yes, and I think when they look at the statue, and the three of them are looking at the statue, I could never, even when I was a practicing Catholic, I could never engage with statues. And it always go to fall back on yourself. You don't, so that scene to me it wasn't about them being, it was them being able to transcend the experience of looking at that statue. That's why they're able to joke about it, because the statue is not important. What's important is being around that abstract spiritual experience that they were beginning to sense, once they were in the grotto, and it's manifests really in the child that they see, or its experience, I should say, to the disabled child that they see in the grotto. not the statue. And it's that child that, it makes the Agnes character respond quite strongly. And not the three of them, not the four of them. But I wanted to make the point that that is what Lourdes is about. It's about people and about people sharing things. And doesn't really matter whether you're a Catholic or not, in my opinion. And, the pilgrimage, we were obsessed by pilgrimages when we were kids. I wasn't, but the culture was, we used to have this, it's still a place of pilgrimage, Knock in the west of Ireland, in County Galway. And people used to go there. And we used to go when we were kids. We were stuck in the back of the car and driven off down to Knock. And we used to pray all the way and pray all the way back and all the rest of it. And it was a pilgrimage. And everybody was, we had these pilgrimages that we used to do from the school as well, more modest little events. But they were all about leaving the past behind, engaging with yourself, saying the rosary and taking you out of yourself and be in touch with some kind of spiritual entity. And sometimes we engaged with it as kids, and most of the time we didn't really, because it was all a bit too ritualized, and it was all a bit too like school.
I think for myself, as a practicing Catholic, sometimes I find that my expectations of certain holy places far exceed the reality of the situation. There's a interesting part that happens in the movie where Eileen, Kathy Baker's character, talks about the commercialism that surrounds Lourdes in regards to all the things that are on sale, the marketplaces, because Lourdes is essentially a marketplace village, and then the apparitions happened, and then a lot of things popped up around there too. I remember 10 or 11 years ago, I was in Europe, and every place I went to in Europe, whether it was Italy, France, or what have you, I wanted to see all the great churches. In some churches I went into, cathedrals, I was overtaken by the Holy Spirit and the art and everything else. In other places that I went to, I was disappointed by the commercialism that surrounded it. Notre Dame was a big one of those. I went there expecting something really grand, and the first thing that I had to walk through, besides all the wrappers of fast food, burgers and such outside of the door, was this market store where you had to buy all these things and such. And it broke down the expectation that sometimes some of these places are important in regards to their spiritual value, but there's also some type of business interests surrounding it as well. And I think in regards to Eileen's character, it was a really quick reality wake-up call in regards that she was expecting one thing, like she was going to go to Mount Sinai and hear the voice of God from the burning bush, but what she got instead was snow globes and statues, and that was a really interesting part of that. I mean, as yourself as a Catholic or former practicing Catholic, is that something that really kind of resonated with you? That part of the story in regards to the commercialism surrounding these really holy places.
Well, yes. We do deal with the commercialism that Kathy Bates' character does in the film. You couldn't not really, in some way, deal with it. But as you probably found, you obviously have to have the strength to look beyond that, or find. If this was speaking for myself, I would find. Enlighten some kind of spiritual engagement, in a less than holy place, because it doesn't need statues. What it needs is a state of mind, or an approach to your version of what a divine element is in our lives. I think if you rely on a church, and I think the Kathy Bates character is a good example of that. If you rely on the church to solve your problems, it's just not going to happen. And there are quite a lot of people who in extremists anyway, take their problems in finding some kind of deciding that their religion is so perfect that that religion over there is the one that's causing the problem. They just distract themselves with invent enemies for themselves so that they don't have to really reflect properly on what it is that they need to do. And I think that's true of a lot of. I'm just thinking about the riots in northern India with the two races fighting each other, two tribes fighting each other, I should say, and that's partly about religion. I mean, Northern Ireland, for God's sake, I mean, they're all Christians, and yet, you know, being a Catholic and being a Protestant in Northern Ireland was a reason to have very defined and inherited attitudes about each other, which are complete nonsense.
My final question is just in regards to that. To me, it speaks more about a tribalism more than anything else. And I think what's important about the Miracle Club is that even though the movie starts with a very strong sense of bitterness in regards to the past and divisions and lines drawn in the sand, over the journey, there's compassion and forgiveness wins out in the end. I think that's a really important thing, especially these days with people, how they view each other. I think compassion and forgiveness needs to win out in the end. And I think it's a really important message that this film shows.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I mean, the whole thing in Northern Ireland, some people like to see it as a religious war. And in fact, it's not really. It was a political one in the end. But anyway, I take your point about the film, and thank you very much for saying it.
Excellent. So everyone out there listening, The Miracle Club, August 3rd, I really recommend people watch this film. It's a movie I think everyone needs to see because of what we talked about, myself and Thaddeus, and the performances are wonderful, the time setting, the period, the themes. I recommend everyone watch this film. And Thaddeus O'Sullivan, thank you so much for your time today. Congrats with the film, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks, Matthew. Take care.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.